Hello, friends. Welcome to this kind of extra episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. My name is Mark. I'm the owner here at Creative Occasions. Welcome to my studio. You know, the best of intentions, I really wanted to schedule a wreath class during the holidays, and it just got behind me, and I wasn't able to do that. So I thought I'd do a video showing how we make this wreath, and this is actually going to a customer for their front door. They specifically asked to use this Oasis form because there will then be a water source for the greenery. Even though it's cooler here in our area and things are holding pretty well, this winter foliage is holding incredibly well. But they had done a wreath like this before and specifically requested this form. This is the dry form. I want to show you how quick and easy this is. These little brackets just pop right off. And when they do, you'll see that the foam is actually cut already into 4 sections. So what you want to do is just float the foam sections in a tub of water. You never want to push Oasis down in the water. Pushing it down will force the water into the foam and will create air pockets. You want to just let it float so that it will absorb the water naturally from the bottom up. So do that with these sections, and then I'll show you what happens next. All right, so the sections on the wreath have been nicely soaked. You'll notice that sometimes there are little air bubbles that'll come up as you're soaking it. You want to be sure to soak it until you don't see any more air bubbles. And then we're just going to pop these little clips right back into place. This is a very easy process actually to soak this foam for this kind of wreath. And then we're going to take our anchor tape. Some people call this pot tape, anchor tape. Because there's a fair amount of weight associated with this, and we're going to be putting a lot of stems in here, I want to make sure that those little clips that were so easy to put on don't pop off. So I'm just going to take a wide piece of this pot tape, anchor tape, wrap it over the little clip, and right onto the back. And when we do that, that's going to secure the little clip right on top, or right to the form. So that tape just covers that clip. It secures it right to the backing of the wreath, so it's nice and secure. That little clip is not going to pop off now. So I'm going to do the other 3 clips. One more to go. The advantage of this kind of form over one of the wire rings that you see where you just clamp or tie greenery onto the form is that this has a water source and that you can replenish the water with this foam too. If this wreath is being hung on your door, you can take it down, you can pour water on it, let it drain, hang it back on your door, and that will certainly improve the longevity of it over the holiday season. So, and I think that that's why this client specifically asked for this type of form, is that she had used one before and loved the fact that she starts hosting people pretty early in the season and wants to be able to use the wreath for a long time. So before we get into doing the greenery on the form, we're going to take a wire and create the hanger on it. It's much easier to do that now than it is after you get the greenery on it. And so we're basically going to take the wire, we're going to go through the foam so it comes out the other side. You can see the wire right here. I'm just going to pull it up to this side. And essentially, there's going to be some sort of hanger or a nail on the door or something that's going to be used to support the weight of this. So we're going to guesstimate about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and then just twist the wire really, really securely many, many, many times, as many times as you can. Again, because we don't want this letting go once it's in place. I'm going to trim those extra edges out. And then what I'm going to do is twist this again on the form. And partly that's going to keep the wire from moving through the foam on the form so much. Put that twisted section down, and now we have a nice loop on there that will support the weight of the form and the wreath. So next up is greenery. Now in this case, she ordered all boxwood. So the client wants the entire wreath made out of boxwood, and because I don't have a source in my yard for enough boxwood to do a project like this, I purchased some boxwood from the local wholesaler, something that is certainly available this time of year. And we're going to cut it into little sections and essentially just begin to lay that in place, stick it into the form on the wreath. Now, I do like to stick it in at an angle. One of the things, of course, about that is that it's going to give you better coverage on the wreath form when you do that, because it lays over. It also creates this beautiful sort of almost texture, almost like the nap on a fabric when you do that to the form itself and to the wreath. I'm just using my fingernail to pop this off. This boxwood has been in the fridge. It's nice and cool, so it snaps pretty easily. Let me show you how that's looking. So yeah, we're just going to kind of overlay that, put it in at an angle, and create this nice sort of sweeping form that goes really all the way around. And if you were to do mixed greenery, mixed foliages, you would just kind of incorporate those as you go along. So I'm not going to bore you with all this now. I'm going to speed this up and let you see how this happens. Alrighty, so we're just about done. I wanted just to leave this one little section open here to show you one of those clips. And when you get to the clip, it's not really like a big deal at all because of how the greenery is angled. So you can see this. We're just going to lay the greenery in at an angle, and from this end, it's going to go right over and just cover it up. So really those clips are not to be an issue at all with how the design goes together. Really in real time, I know that I was doing this time lapse so that you could kind of see how this was going and you wouldn't have to watch the whole boring, mundane process. But literally in real time, it took me about 20 minutes to get this whole wreath done. You can see that there was water running across the table. That's because that foam is really soaked, and as you're pushing those stems in, it's going to push some of the water out. So be prepared for that. You know, make sure that your workstation has a towel or someplace that you're not going to damage a surface by having the water run out. Now, as you finish up, I can see a place where, like, I could see a clip down in there. So just take some extra sprigs, particularly on this inner edge. Since this is going to be hanging up on a doorway, we want to be sure that that inner edge is nicely finished too. And you can't see any of that plastic form. I did end up using the clippers a lot more than I thought I would, partly because the stems were a lot tougher than I anticipated. It may be because the greenery has come through from the warehouse and it has not quite as fluffy as it might have been had it been just cut from your bush in the yard. But yeah, some of the stems were pretty tough. And you can tell when you're putting the stem in, just like you can tell when you're doing an arrangement with foam, if you're getting the stem seated in there or not. All right, so lovely. See all that water dripping out? Yeah. All right, so now let's find the wire so that we know where the top is. Here it is. So this is going to be the top. Somebody's looking a little funky right down there. So let's fix that before we go on any further. All right, so I've got that little kind of wonky place fixed at the bottom. And so now we've done some other work for this client, and she wanted to use all traditional plaids this year. So we're kind of doing a combination. You've seen me do that before with different patterns and colors and textures of ribbon. I tied it with a chenille stem, and this chenille stem I know is not going to be long enough to go around that volume of that boxwood. So I'm just going to tie a little extender on here. Twist this on, twist it for security. You know, a wreath like this would be lovely laying down on a table with a big glass hurricane and a candle in it. Again, if you're going to put that on a table surface that's wood, you need to be sure to protect it somehow so that the moisture from this wreath is not going to impact the finish on the wood. But they really do have such great staying power when they're in this foam. All right. Now, back to the top. Here's our wire. So, this is where we want to put the bow on. And I'm just going to kind of snug it down into the boxwood. Then pull those chenille stems around to the back. And I've missed the top just a little bit. There it is. And because the green chenille stems are green, you can't see them in the boxwood. All right, so we're just going to pull it nice and snug and get this baby twisted in there so it doesn't come off. You can see I'm just kind of letting this lower edge rest on the table. That's not going to hurt it. Your stem should be nice and seated in that foam and nice and secure, so they're not going to risk falling out. So there we go. Kind of a lovely, lush presentation for the holidays for my client and her guests as they come to her home. I hope you enjoyed that quick tutorial on how to do the boxwood wreath. The forms are available either online or here at my shop, so give that a whirl if you'd like. Also use the rings. The rings are great and even quicker and easier than this, honestly, if you have the proper equipment to close those clamps on those ring forms. They work beautifully. Bourbon. It must be time for bourbon. I'm going to have to go now. So until next time, cheers to you and to flowers every day. Thanks for joining me. See you soon.